Michael McIntyre! And aren't you in for a treat? A reward for your hard day's work. Work is over. The play will begin. Half an hour of pure, unadulterated stand-up, bringing the best stand-ups in the whole country to you tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, you may have noticed that we've slipped into December, which just crept up on all of us. I think we've all felt, how on earth did this happen? Suddenly December happened, and men in households have been looked at and pointed at by the women in their lives to go and fetch the decorations from the loft. And then men freak out at this point. Where are they? I think they are in the loft. I have no recollection of the direction. I remember them on the tree. But beyond that, it's that I carry a bag somewhere containing what I need to maintain a happy home. And normally they're in the loft. The loft is a place for men. Only men go into the loft. Women must stay away from loft. We look at our women, come nowhere near loft. Your role is strictly limited to passer-upper, okay? For all you know, we have a little bit of a bachelor pad up there, maybe a jacuzzi, some whores. So Christmas will be upon us in earnest soon. Shopping will be a major part of our lives. Shopping. We'll be out there shopping.
What am I going to get for Dad? What am I going to get for Dad? What am I get for Mum? She never wears anything. I just give her the same thing and she just ignores it. I could give her the same thing from last year. She wouldn't care. I'm just going to give her the same thing.
Well, apparently on Monday they said it was the biggest day for internet shopping. We're all going to go online now and get our shopping. It's all about online. I don't go on the internet very often. I use it slightly more than my wife's aware of, but that's... I like Ask Jeeves. I find Google a bit annoying. I don't like it if you type it, did you mean this? No, I know what I bloody mean. Did you mean something else entirely? But I like Jeeves. Jeeves is a real person. You can relate to Jeeves. Standing there in his pinstripe suit. I used to be a butler and I realised I knew everything, so I've started up a website. I was wasted serving others. I knew everything. You ask me anything, and he's got a sort of look on his face as if to say, ask me anything, pop your question in that box over there, and I will hold the answer. I'm Jeeves, I know everything. Forget Google. He doesn't even know what you mean. Did you mean I'm Jeeves? I know everything. As soon as I saw Jeeves, I've got to be honest with you, I thought he looked a little bit camp, and I wondered if he was homosexual, so I asked him. I just popped it straight in the box. Are you gay? And I press send, and you should try this, it's hilarious. It comes back, it says, you asked, is Jeeves gay? By gay, do you mean happy and enjoys life? Or sleeps with other men? So I clicked on sleeps with other men, and I'm actually meeting for a drink on Thursday. So, ladies and gentlemen, I bring on the first act tonight. This first comedian was last year nominated for the Perrier Award. You might have heard him on Loose Ends. You might indeed have heard him on The Now Show. Please welcome the wonderful talents of one of the top comedians working in the UK today, Mr. Paul Sinha, ladies and gentlemen!
Wow, you are a lovely, lovely crowd. My name is Paul Sinha. I'm not just a stand-up comic. I am an openly gay stand-up comic, which is great. It's a great life. Feeling a huge chasm in the world of gay Asian comedy. Left by the untimely death of Bernard Manning. And I'm also a qualified doctor, a qualified GP. Don't be impressed, it was kind of inevitable. If you met my family, my granddad was a doctor. My dad still is a doctor. My mum, very big fan of Holby City. People often ask me, is there a connection between medicine and comedy? And the only one I can really think of about being a doctor and being a stand-up is we're both very much at the front line of binge-drinking Britain. And all over Western Europe, I have been a terrible drunk. Manchester a few years ago, I'm on a taxi rank, waiting to get back to my hotel. I'm Asian, I'm gay, I'm middle class. Worse than that, I'm from London. It's important that I make eye contact with no one. But I'm drunk. And I'm staring at this guy, baseball cap, tracky bottom, sovereign ring, eating the face off his girlfriend. And I didn't think I looked for long, but I must have done. Because the guy sees me, wanders over and says, "Hey, mate, do you fancy my girlfriend?" What am I meant to say here? Let's, for 1 second, examine my options. If I say yes, I'm eyeing his bird, I get a beating. If I say no, I'm calling his bird a minger, I get a beating. If I tell him the truth, no, not her, you're beautiful, I'll get a beating. I'm not proud of what I said next, but I think in a small way it helped save my life. Look, mate, I said, my wife died of cancer 3 months ago, and I can't look at women in that way. Now, I said I wasn't proud. That's a lie. That was pretty clever. I was proud. And in my defence, there was a small element of truth. I mean, it wasn't 3 months ago. It was 10 years ago. It obviously wasn't my wife. It was my sister. And she didn't die of cancer. She got an economics degree from the University of Warwick. I mean, the way I look at it now, cancer, non-medical degree. Either way, she's dead to my parents. But the point is, it's fine, they love each other now. The point is, the lie worked, lucky escape number one, I avoided the beating. But my luck was always going to run out. And it did, on the first Friday of March this year, when I was gigging in a large comedy club in Glasgow in Scotland. Trust me when I say, Friday night Glasgow, the audience a bit more drunk than Radio 4. And every comic has to adjust his material a little bit here and a little bit there. And I'm giving them my story about being a slim, heterosexual white man. And to be honest with you, the gig had gone well. So to celebrate, I went to a local eatery called the Best Kebab House and ordered myself a large chicken shish. And I'm really excited because this place is called the Best Kebab House. And outside, an argument is escalating. It's more than an altercation. It's not quite a riot. It's too Glaswegian to be a kerfuffle. This is a fracker. And I'm desperately trying to ignore the argument. It's so hard. As you can imagine, the language that they're using is terrible. I overhear this woman screaming, "You're nothing more than a bloody slut whore." I'm thinking, slut whore? That's tautology, the clumsiest of errors. And it's an unnecessary repetition. It's saying something more than once for no apparent reason. I turned round to see who's committed this heinous grammar crime, only to find a Glaswegian fist flying towards my head. And for 20 minutes, not one human being came to my assistance. I know why. In this kebab shop, somebody getting punched was much like somebody ordering hummus. Just one of those unexpected things that happens once or twice a night, usually involving a vegetarian. But eventually, the Glaswegian police came, and their first move, a rather unusual one. They took me outside, stood me in front of 3 gorgeous Glaswegian youths, and said, "Was it one of these guys?" Suddenly, this is the most sinister version of Blind Date I've ever been asked to take part in. And I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't get a look." They said, "What happened then?" And I told them what I've just told you. That a man who'd said nothing punched me bang in the middle of the head. And then they said, "Do you think he was racist?" Oh, do behave. I've been drinking for the last 5 hours. I am not Derren Brown. How could I possibly tell if a silent man was indeed a racist? Was there a distinctive aroma he was meant to have given off? A secret handshake, a hidden tattoo, a T-shirt saying Kilroy Silk for PM? How could I possibly tell if a silent man was racist? I've been punched in the head. Why would a stranger do that to me in the middle of a Glasgow kebab shop? And then, tired, exhausted, I started crying. And the most embarrassing thing was, the only thing I had around to wipe the tears with was the sleeve of the Celtic football top I was wearing. Joking aside, because that last bit's clearly not true. It was an England top. But joking aside, join us. I've been Paul Sinha. Thank you very much. Paul Sinha, ladies and gentlemen.
So we're coming live from Greenwich. Who's from Greenwich? Now you're wearing a big chain around your neck. Is there someone sitting on a bicycle going, why? Why isn't it? And you, of course, Fred Perry is somebody else's name, but you have this written on your person because this is like a label, like a designed label, Fred Perry. Is your name Fred Perry? Is it Fred Perry? Yeah. No, okay. I think we need to establish some facts before we start in earnest. I'm not hard. I don't have the accent. Do you know what I mean? I've tried to sound threatening. It sounds more humiliating. Come on then. That doesn't strike fear. Come on then, if you think you're hard enough. Sounds more like a homosexual invitation, if we're being brutally honest. See, I have to say personally, I'm not really into design labels. I don't wear them. I find it a bit awkward because it's basically you're looking at a black T-shirt. If you bought a black T-shirt from like M&S or something, it would cost like £4. Whereas if you bought it with somebody else's name on it, Fred Perry, then you're looking at much more money because you're basically sending out the message, I can afford this. I can afford this because Fred Perry is a man who makes wonderful T-shirts, and I've now joined his club, and that's what goes on. Like people who have look at me, I have a little man playing polo on my shirt. You have nothing. You have no man playing any sport of any kind on your clothing. I have a little crocodile. Do you have a little crocodile? Nothing. Not a lizard. No amphibians of any description are on your clothing. Yet I am a man of some means. That is why I have a crocodile. Sometimes late at night the crocodile plays polo with the polo player. That's how rich I am, because that's the message. The message you're sending out to people is I can afford this. But not necessarily. You see, it could be stolen, it could be a fake garment. What I think people should do is just have T-shirts with a photocopy on the front of a recent bank statement. Just people going, look at that, £18,000 credit. Not to mention my savings on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you to the next act of the evening! Please welcome to the stage, Isy Suttie!
Good evening. It's wonderful to be here. I don't know if you've read this in the paper the other day. Amy Winehouse, the troubled singer, has taken to hiding underground to get out of going to rehab. And she's currently hiding in a well. And I know this because I walked past the well the other day. And I popped my head over the top and I was like, oh, it's Amy Winehouse. And she was like, trying to make me go to really hard about a city. No. Yeah, that's a bimming blah blah. But when I cook 'em back, I won't go. And I ain't got the ta da da. Mama daddy dee thing sa sa mama. Trying to make me go to really hard about my one go. And And I was like, you look quite hungry. I've got a jammy dodger. And she said, I'm allergic to wheat. So we just left it. Now, I'm from Matlock in Derbyshire. I say I'm from Matlock. I'm from a lady called Vivian and a gentleman called Photographs and Forgotten Birthdays. My mum writes me a lot of letters. I've got a letter from her here. This will give you an idea of the kind of craziness that goes on in Matlock, if you haven't been there. Dear Izzy, a brochure arrived today explaining lots of things about the council tax. One of the things explained is that if you are in prison, you don't have to pay council tax. However, if you are in prison for non-payment of council tax, you do have to pay. Yes. This is another letter from my mum. Here we go. Dear Izzy, I passed Mavis Richardson on Stony Way today. That's the hill outside my parents' house. Mavis was walking briskly downhill and I was walking not quite so briskly up. It's very cold today, isn't it? I called to her. It is, she said. I've had to put my great big coat on. I know, I said. It's ridiculous. Meaning the weather for October. But then, as she strode off, I realised she might have thought that I meant her coat. Oh no! Oh, I didn't mean your coat, I shouted after her. What? I didn't mean your coat is ridiculous. No, I know you didn't, she said. That was that settled. Then she's put, but already I was exhausted from this exchange and hoped I didn't meet anyone else that I know. That's the highlight of the day. Right, now, I don't know if you know this, but the local Christmas choir are currently hiding in a well. And I walked past the well the other day, I was like, all right, it's the Christmas choir. And they were like, gin gin go go ba 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 bells, gin gin go go ba 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 bells, gin gin go go all the way. Out of wa ba 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 it is to do right. Oh no lily to do ta da no no baby lily hem out of studio city dee la 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 la. Sai sai la 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 holy night. And then I said, hang on Izzy, isn't this a way of you shoehorning your echo singing into your routine? And I said no, because it's religious and therefore it's above the law. Now, I'm going to finish on a song. This is a song about when I used to live in Matlock and I used to be married. Well, I married my childhood sweetheart, Ray, and we promptly settled down. We ran a fish and chip shop in the centre of the town. One night I heard some noises. I was afraid that there was a fire. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw Ray standing there with his family jewels in the deep fat fryer. And he said, "Hey, come on, love, what's the matter? Have you never seen a sausage and batter?" When I found it was a tasty dish, I let Ray batter me fish. That's a metaphor. One night the local policeman popped round to check if the business was doing all right. But when he asked for chips and a battered saveloy, I'm telling you people, he got a terrible fright. As Ray said, "Come on, Sergeant, what's the matter? Have you never seen a sausage and batter?" When the sergeant found it was nice to munch on, he let Ray batter his truncheon. That's a metaphor. Soon the whole community had got involved, but one lady didn't find it so fine. I had to explain it was pleasure, not pain, when she called the battered wives helpline. I'm so sorry. And we all said, "Hey, come on, love, what's the matter? Have you never seen a sausage and batter?" When she found it was a tasty dish, she reported him to the authorities. Thank you very much. I've been Isy Suttie. Good night.
Isy Suttie! So, what's going on? Christmas. It's crept up, hasn't it? And Father Christmas, he is... I can't say too much because it's 6:30, but I was never a big fan of Father Christmas. I never understood why he always gave... He seemed to favour the richer kids. Did you get this? Quite substantial. Everybody knew who the richest kids in school were, and they would get all this, like, Skelectric and books and computers and stuff from Father Christmas, and all the poor ones who were struggling to eat. It's like, what did you get? Tangerine? It's embarrassing. Last year I got my wife this, she's always wanted cosmetics, she read cosmetics. Not that that implies that she needs it, she doesn't. But, you know, girls are very into this kind of thing. And I don't really understand it. And she sends me with this list of all this really expensive stuff to go to these cosmetics departments. You know the places where the women work and they seem to have every product they sell on their face already. I don't know if you're supposed to pick what you want from their face. You don't go to the sports department and see some guy sitting on a horse in skis, shuttlecock earrings, holding a rugby ball. Everything is here! On my person! So she gives me this thing last year, and she says, I want this wrinkle cream. And I'm like, alright, fine, why? And she said, well, so I don't get wrinkles, idiot. And I'm, well, you don't have wrinkles, then I won't get them, that's why you need to get this cream. It's like £80. That's a lot of money. She's like, well, it's the best, you've got to get the best, it's the must-have cream. It's the must-have, and I don't have it, so that's a problem. So, you need to get me the must-have cream. And I'm, well, it was £80. I know that's because it's the best, but you don't have wrinkles, and I won't have wrinkles. So I have to get her this cream, but I will take it back if it doesn't work. Even in 20 years, I'm quite prepared to walk into the department store and go, 20 years ago I purchased this wrinkle cream for you. I have the receipt, which you can see is in a better condition than the face of my wife. I demand a refund! That's how I talk to people in shops. Ladies and gentlemen, are we up for the next act of the night? He's a fantastic writer and an even better stand-up, one of my all-time favourites. Please give all your love to Mr. Richard Herring, ladies and gentlemen.
Lovely to be here. Hello, Radio 4. To be or not to be. That is the first and only question on the University of Beekeeping entrance exam. Act your age, not your shoe size. That means something different on the continent. When I was at school, we used to play football in games lessons. I wasn't very good at football, but I tried hard. But I was a very selfish player. I'd always hog the ball. I'd never pass it, which was a problem because I was a rubbish player. I'd always lose the ball. At the end of one lesson, Mr. Morris, the games teacher, came up to me and said, "Herring, you're playing very selfishly. You have to learn to pass the ball. Football is a team game, and there is no I in team." I said, "No, but there is a me in there." If you look closely, it's a bit jumbled up, but it's definitely in there. And Mr. Morris, who lives his life by the philosophy that if a word has a smaller word inside it, that affects the definition of the larger word, was forced to concede that it was all right for me to play selfishly, as there is a me in team. The next lesson, I started tripping up people on my side, jumping on them, gnawing at their legs. Mr. Morris said, "What are you doing, Herring? That is against the rules of association football." I said, "Mr. Morris, there is an eat in team." He said, "Yep, fair enough, you got me there, I can't argue with that. I've been hoist with my own petard." That's what he said. He was a very Shakespearean quoting games teacher. Don't stereotype them, they're not all ignorant bullies. That is an unfair stereotype. The next lesson, I started attacking people on my side with a cleaver. I took their lifeless cadavers, I hung them up in a refrigerated lorry for sale at market at some later date. I was hoping to make a profit from my evil deeds. Mr. Morris was bamboozled. He couldn't understand what was going on at all. He said, "What are you doing, Herring? That is murder. That is currently against the laws of the United Kingdom and is seriously frowned upon by the FA." I said, "Mr. Morris, there is a meat in team." Mr. Morris said, "No, Herring, meat is an anagram of team. I live my life by the philosophy that if a word has a smaller word inside it, that affects the definition of the word." No, it's an anagram of the word. What kind of ridiculous philosophy would that be? If the anagram affected the definition, that would be ludicrous. So I did have to go to prison for 30 years because, as it turns out, meat, it's an anagram of team. I learned an important lesson that day, mate. Which is good. So Jerry Hall had some advice, girls, on how to keep your man. So that's going to be worth listening to, isn't it? Yeah. Jerry Hall's advice is going to be gold dust, this, girls. Prick up your ears. Jerry Hall's advice, girls, all you have to do to keep your man is act like a cook in the kitchen, a maid in the parlour, and a whore in the bedroom. Yeah. Better advice, though, girls, if you want to keep your man, is to act like a whore in every room of the house. Most men won't really care what state the parlour has got into. I don't really go in there. Not too sure where it is. So who is it who says potato anyway? They're definitely pronouncing that word wrong. And someone has to tell them. You might think, "Oh, it's not a big deal, let them go on saying potato." You can vaguely understand what they mean. You have to think 5 years down the line, that bloke's in a swanky restaurant about to propose to the woman he loves. The snooty waiter comes over, takes his order. He goes, "Oh, by the way, does that come with potatoes?" The waiter's going to snigger. The woman's going to think, "I'm not marrying this bloke. He can barely speak." Go up to your potato-saying friend, show him a potato, go, "Look, mate, what would you call that?" He'll go, "Well, that's an easy question. I'm looking forward to answering that, as I know the correct answer. The name that that item is commonly referred to by is the potato. That is its name." You go, "No, mate, it isn't. You're the only person in the world who calls it that. Everyone else calls it a potato. You're saying it wrong. You look like an idiot. Just trying to help you out. It's potato." You might go, "Well, that's just a matter of pronunciation. It's like you say tomato, I say tomato. Exactly the same as that." No, mate, it's not a tomato-tomato situation. Because some people do say tomato. They're incorrect to do that. But we can at least have a debate over that when there's some argument to be had over the pronunciation. You're the only person in the world who says potato. You're being different for different sake. I mean, I'm all for the evolution of language, but you can't just start making up your own pronunciations of words as you fancy willy-nilly. Language will break down. No one will be able to understand each other. Where will it end? I say banana, you say banani. I say pomegranate, you say kumquat. Do you see what I mean? It's got to be the same. Well, language doesn't work. It's potato. That's how you say it. Potato. The only person in the world who might conceivably say potato, apart from you, is Inspector Clouseau. And he's incorrect. The French don't say potato. I wish they did. The French say something far worse. They call it a pomme de terre, which literally means apple of the ground. Now, that is not a good description of a potato. A potato and an apple are nothing like each other. Potato and apple are nothing like. Look, they're very different. I mean, they're both foodstuffs. That's about as far as it can go. What does that mean? A lasagna is a lion bar of the oven? I don't think so. I think we've got to satirise the French because they're wrong to call that an apple of the ground. It's nothing like an apple. But everyone in the English-speaking world has to do this for this to work. From now on, everyone in the English-speaking world has to start referring to apples as potatoes of the sky. Which, it's actually factually incorrect. But I think that's a better name for apple than apple, wouldn't you say? Sky potato. The reason this is good satire, the French, you have to imagine little French boys in school learning English. The teacher comes in one day, he goes, "Voici la pomme. Mais en Angleterre on dit, le pomme de terre de ciel." So the little French kid will say in French, what? So the English literally call an apple of the ground of the sky? That's a bit ridiculous. Why don't you just call an apple? Why go through it? It's just an apple, call it an apple. The English are ridiculous. The English language is stupid. At which point, I will burst into the classroom and go, "No, little French boy. No, it's you who is ridiculous. You and the entire French-speaking world for calling a potato an apple of the ground," which, by the way, doesn't resemble in any way at all. The rest of the world are laughing at you, think you're stupid. I've just satirised you and everyone you know made you look like an idiot. How'd you like them sky potatoes? You've been terrific. Thanks very much.
You've been listening to Four Stands Up with Paul Sinha, Isy Suttie, and the wondrous Richard Harry. I was your host, Michael McIntyre. The producer was Salusha Galadi.